whatever happened with your specific person, with your true love, was a reflection of something that was active inside of you. Your perception, whatever your internal reaction is simply showing you what the active programming was, your previous awareness. So instead of holding on to that, for some of you, when we work together, for example, we go over maybe the root causes of what was active in you. I give you the tools. We recreate the new story of the dynamic of how you and your specific person feel about each other, how you treat each other, how you relate to each other and relate to the relationship. What does the life look like? And then I always explain to people the importance and in the free lessons on the channel too, the importance of not waking up in the morning and simply going into imagining you and your person together. So sometimes, for example, I'll ask somebody, so what have you been doing in terms of your mind and your thinking and your belief system? And they'll tell me that they either that they don't do anything, maybe they listen to a couple videos in the morning, or maybe they just wake up and they feel triggered, they feel drained, but they still go ahead and they affirm for the person, or because they're triggered and they feel drained, they don't do anything and they only focus on quote unquote what they call self-concept. So what you want to do is realize your I amness and that you're not separate from the creator, God, universe, source, infinite intelligence, and that in your reality, your experiences, not only with your true love, with your specific person, but also with people who you meet at the doctor's office. If you want to purchase something, your everything and everyone, your health, your finances, your career, every experience that you have, it's all a reflection of something that was active within you. And when you disregard the experiences that you're having in the 3D, if it's not something that is working in alignment with what you truly deserve, what you want, then you take those experiences and in some cases you simply revise them, imagine it how it happened, and then imagine it slightly differently. If it's a deep trigger, you detach the emotional reaction from whatever the experience is. You go within, you just give yourself love. You let yourself feel your feelings. It's not going to destroy your manifestation. Stuffing down and rejecting yourself and not allowing yourself to feel your feelings out of fear that you could ruin something, that might keep you still experiencing reality without having, for example, the relationship with your true love. Why? Because you're actually ignoring yourself. You're not loving yourself. You are blocking yourself. How? By stuffing down your feelings, thinking that if I feel these feelings, I'm going to destroy my manifestation. It's not true. So let yourself feel the feelings, give yourself love. And then I do suggest that you do revision with the root cause. Some content creators will teach that revision is simply seeing your entire life, even back then, completely differently. And a lot of people who have come to me after following that advice for a certain amount of linear time, nothing ever changes still, because it's more like they're just fooling themselves. They may not realize what revision actually is. From my experience and what I see actually works for clients is when you're triggered, you detach the emotion, you give yourself love, you simply go back to a time of whatever the root cause was, and you imagine that whomever caused this pain, like if you felt like you weren't good enough, like you didn't matter, like your mom or your dad weren't listening to your feelings, you can go back in space and time and imagine that whatever that was happened, and that you just speak up and you cry and you say something. And then you imagine that they have a moment. I like to always call it the come to Jesus moment, where they realize the harm that they've caused with you. And they like have a moment that like, and they come to you and they comfort you and they tell you, maybe they call you what they used to call you as a child, and they just tell you that you are right and that they're sorry. So in other words, they validate your feelings. They tell you that they're sorry and that they promise it has nothing to do with you, and that they promise to do better. So please forgive me. To me, that when it comes to like if you felt rejected or abandoned, or that, I did that with I had memories of my father telling me that I was stupid. It wasn't that he was a bad person, but he himself was abused, neglected emotionally. As a kid growing up, I think there was something with my uncle who is still alive in Brazil, but I think the brother was very abusive with him. So anyway, so that was how he treated me, how he was treated, basically. There were also a lot of things that he did that were very loving. And I didn't have access to any of that because all I could remember, because I pretty much shut down emotionally, was the abusive things, calling me stupid, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I have no emotional charge anymore. It's just simply, it's inactive in my system. And if somebody in my reality, if I feel like, for example, if somebody in my reality now was to say something that would have triggered me back a couple of years ago, it doesn't affect me. Why? Because I listened to myself and I gave that little fragmented ego that was still active within me. I gave her the love she needed in the moment of a trigger, detached it from, for example, from my mirror soul. And then I just went back and I allowed myself to experience at that age, my father at that time in my life, validate me, apologize to me. And then that little active, fragmented ego self, it's almost like we have this matrix of fragmented egos still active in us from these impressionable moments that happened from growing up until now. So anyway, so that little part of me just was able to integrate into my system. And so it's completely inactivated now. So anyway, back to manifesting your specific person. So do that when you're triggered. If you're just in a little bit of a waver, so your ego is trying to fight you to keep you safe. So simply you're like, no, you can either say, no, that's not true, claim who you are, say a few affirmations in alignment with what you want. This can be regarding your specific person, money, health, or anything else. And it works. You can even say, no, F that. That's not true. Step back in your power. Use whatever phrasing kind of allows you to switch and shift out of the reactor and into your power as the I am awareness. Remember that the I am awareness isn't, you can come to it through ego-based teachings, and that can work for some people. And for some people, it can work temporarily. But then when their specific person truly comes back into their life, the triggers are still there. Why? Possibly because you continued to still see your person in the same way. You didn't let go. You didn't forgive them. You didn't forgive yourself. You kind of allowed that story to stay active by only focusing on self-concept. You didn't go to the root causes. So then when they come back, well, if something happens, it's just gonna keep happening until you let this story go. So recognize that you can let go of the problems that you and your true love had. You can truly let them go. It is truly safe to not hold on to this story that you have about your true love, about your mirror soul. I had a client once, this was a few years back. He presented almost as an avoidant. I have a lot of clients that would fall in different categories of like psychology based attachment theory. Okay. So with this particular client, he was presenting more as an avoidance, where in his mind, he actually, I used an analogy once of design software, like filters. When you can put a filter over somebody's face and take a beautiful picture of somebody and put a filter over them that makes them look kind of scary. So in his mind, because of his trauma from childhood with things that happened growing up with, I don't remember if it was women in his life. It was probably a combination of something with his dad and his mom, and maybe that morphed itself. And then he ended up having negative experiences with women in his life. I believe that was something like that. Doesn't matter really because anyway. So with his person, she just really loved to go out and socialize with her friends. She was from what I believe, she was a very loyal, loving person, but he had a story around these things and he was projecting this story onto her, the abusive stuff that he experienced as a child. So it's like he put that kind of scary filter over who his true love really is. So he was seeing her from that filter and that light. He even told me that once he started doing the inner work and allowing himself to feel the love for her, his ego was fighting her in the form of nightmares where suddenly she was back and they started getting intimate and close. And all of a sudden, he literally said she literally looked evil. So I explained to him that's simply you're in your trauma brain. That's all. So it's not really her. So what you want to do is go back and do revision with these things that happened when you were younger. Just do revision. If somebody was causing any form of sexual or physical harm with you, you don't go back into those experiences, but you can go back to yourself and like almost like you take the power of who you know you are now and that you actually were safe and you survived. So you can go back and almost like lend your younger self the power of what you know and who you know you are now. So you can go back to that younger part of yourself and tell them, this is not your fault. You are perfect. You are powerful. You're divine. And I promise you, you're going to be okay. You're safe. I love you. You're okay. You can do that too. I've done that too. And it's very powerful. If I didn't want to go back to a very painful experience, I wasn't sexually or physically abused by my parents. I don't want that to be misconstrued what I just said. But there were very, very deep traumatic things that it didn't feel safe for me to go back in. Anyway, so the client did that. Guess what happened? After well over a year and a half of not having no sign of anything with his mirror soul, he was out at a cafe. He was doing what I was describing, like every hour to 2 hours while you're living your life fully and you're enjoying yourself. You consistently do the inner work in the morning, tapping into oneness with God, creator, universe, source, your own I am awareness, other areas of your life, as well as the relationship. So anyway, he's doing this perfectly. And now he's gone back and done revision. So he's in line at the cafe. And in that moment, he said it felt surreal because he put himself in the energy just for a moment while he's standing in line. He was embodying, just sensing and feeling that she was with him, that they were back together as a couple now. They're in a committed relationship. And the moment, so he's sensing that she's with him, he hears something kind of in the back of the cafe. He turns around. His mirror soul is literally sitting there with a girlfriend, just having fun, looks up and she sees him. And I believe they ended up kind of catching up for a moment. So, anyway, disregard what happened. Allow yourself to trust that it only happened because it was your old story getting reflected back to you. Okay. And then please wipe the slate clean, let it go. And remember that you're not manipulating or changing people in your reality. You're simply changing yourself. You're conforming to who you truly are. You're no longer conforming to your old identity, that old fragmented ego identity, the old programming. And when you do that, your entire reality shifts and changes. It's not, you're not changing your specific person, you're changing yourself, and your entire reality will reflect that back to you. Another tip that I think is empowering and important is, don't, like, now you live your life, you do your inner work in the morning, you live your life, you're enjoying yourself, you're having fun, you're pouring love into yourself, you're doing things you enjoy. Your life is full. You're not waiting. If you feel like you're waiting, you're always going to be waiting, because if you're waiting, you're not having, you're not being, you're not embodying. So now, while you're living your life, you are applying this understanding with everyone and everything. You're on the way to the store. You go to the store. You go to a doctor's appointment. You want to buy a new car. You want to buy a new home, this or that. You are reminding yourself, you're being aware of who you are, so you're more present in your life. Revise things as needed, like I said. I affirm that this video helped. Comment down below. I know that I am the creator of my life experience. Nothing can come between me and my desire. Say whatever you want. I intend that this video helped. I love you so much. Have an amazing day. Bye.